A key U.S. ally and one of President Obama's self-declared success stories falls into chaos, and it's raising questions about efforts to track down terrorists there. This is Special Report. Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. Yemen was one of President Obama's examples of where the U.S. was getting it right on foreign policy. That's what he said a little more than 4 months ago. But the situation in Yemen has gotten progressively worse. Tonight, Yemen's president and his cabinet have resigned, and worries about increasing danger are even stronger, and the increasing al-Qaeda presence. National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin has tonight's story from the Pentagon.
State Department officials say they have reached out to Yemeni officials in the capital Sana'a to get more clarity about the resignation of President Hadi, his prime minister and cabinet, just one day after Yemeni officials announced a 10-point truce. The president agreed to give the Shia Houthis more representation. By this morning, when the Houthi armed militants had not withdrawn from around the president's residence and remained inside the presidential palace, the truce appeared in jeopardy. The State Department, still not calling this a coup, has left open the idea of working with the Houthis. U.S. officials say the Houthis have not indicated that they plan to target the U.S. embassy or the American people.
The Houthis don't want to see the rise or success of al-Qaeda in Yemen either. Right. So certainly counterterrorism is an effort that is ongoing.
All of this very worrisome to U.S. officials who are seeing a key ally against al-Qaeda fall to militants who may be under the control of Iran, making Yemen's neighbors nervous.
Saudi Arabia is in a very vulnerable stage now with a probable transition in power happening in the near future. With Iran in the east, Houthis in the south, this is not a comfortable situation for Saudi Arabia.
The unrest is also coming at an awkward time after President Obama again vowed to close the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, where 2/3 of the 122 detainees are from Yemen. The Defense Secretary said the Pentagon will continue to refuse to send released detainees to Yemen. Last week, 5 Yemeni detainees were transferred from Guantanamo Bay to a third country.
The conditions in Yemen today aren't any different than what they have been, and we don't send them back to Yemen.
A company of U.S. Marines are in Yemen prepared to defend the U.S. Embassy. The USS Iwo Jima and Fort McHenry are standing by.
The U.S. has spent $275 million on counterterrorism to help the Yemeni military fight al-Qaeda. All of that could be going up in smoke right now. Brett.
Jennifer Griffin live at the Pentagon. Jennifer, thank you. When Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu comes to Washington to address a joint meeting of Congress, he will not be seeing President Obama. That's the word from the White House tonight. It says the reason is the close proximity to the Israeli election. House Speaker John Boehner's office says Netanyahu has agreed to speak on March 3rd. Secretary of State John Kerry says Iraq and its international partners have made significant gains in the fight against Islamic State militants. Kerry told an international conference in London the coalition has killed more than 6,000 of the group's fighters and 50% of its leadership. He also says Iraqi ground troops, backed by almost 2,000 airstrikes, have retaken 270 square miles of territory. Critics say there's no way to confirm all of that information. Political intrigue and apparent murder mystery tonight in Argentina. A prosecutor is set to accuse the president there of wrongdoing died this week of an apparent suicide. But now the president, Cristina Fernandez, says she does not believe Alberto Nisman killed himself. Fernandez was the focus of Nisman's allegation and investigation that Iranians responsible for bombing a Jewish center in 1994 were the subject of a secret deal to avoid prosecution. An embarrassment tonight for House Republicans who wanted to greet pro-life demonstrators in Washington today with a brand new and highly restrictive ban on abortions past 20 weeks of pregnancy. But politics got in the way, and what was supposed to be a triumph turned into another reminder of just how divisive this issue is on this, the 42nd anniversary of Roe v. Wade. Correspondent Shanna Bream has tonight's story from the Supreme Court.
Thousands of pro-life advocates traveled from around the country to march on Washington today, from the National Mall to the Supreme Court, which decided Roe v. Wade 42 years ago, essentially legalizing abortion nationwide.
My granddaughter and I wanted to come be here, and so we did. We came, and we're very proud to stand up for the babies.
In a written statement, President Obama called Roe, quote, a decision that protects a woman's freedom to make her own choices about her body and her health, adding, I am deeply committed to protecting this core constitutional right. Mr. Obama also denounced the House's decision to pass the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act, calling it an intrusion on women's rights.
The bill is passed.
But the bill aimed at making sure no federal money flows to funding abortions was actually the backup plan. The House was supposed to consider a different bill, one that would substantially limit abortions after 20 weeks into pregnancy. The measure, known as the Pain Capable Act, is based on the premise that 20 weeks into a pregnancy, an unborn child experiences pain.
Routinely, babies are operated on for problems, abnormalities at 20 weeks. If a doctor is required to administer anesthesia because the baby can feel pain, should we all sit silently and allow abortion on demand?
Pro-choice advocates take issue with the claim, saying the science isn't settled. And the House GOP ran into objections from within its own ranks, including concerns about the rape exception, which would require women to report their rape to authorities. A recent Quinnipiac poll asking voters whether they would support or oppose such legislation showed 60% say they would support it, including 56% of independents.
As a pro-life advocate, our work is never done. And we remain committed, as I stand here today, to passing the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act in the House of Representatives.
Senate Democrats are vowing to defeat it.
We will not allow it. We've said that before, and we stopped them, and we say it again, and we'll stop them again.
The administration is warning that if either the bill passed today, the one that is meant to block federal tax dollars from flowing to any abortions, or the 20-week ban reaches the president's desk, they say it will almost certainly be vetoed. Brett.
Shannon Bream, live outside the U.S. Supreme Court. Shannon, thank you. The new Republican-controlled Senate has already voted on more amendments in the first 3 weeks than all of last year under Democratic control. That number was just 15. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has made a point of allowing the amendments, something Democrat Harry Reid virtually refused to do. Two men who could end up fighting over the same voters and donors in the 2016 presidential race are trying to avoid a civil war over the middle. Chief political correspondent Carl Cameron reports on a summit between two of the Republican Party's heavy hitters.
Posing with airline employees before flying from D.C. to Salt Lake City to meet Mitt Romney, Jeb Bush couldn't resist tweeting a photo with the caption, "Thank you to the Delta team for always being great sports. Sorry about all of our reporter friends milling around." Cameras were even waiting in Utah when Bush arrived. The former Florida governor requested the meeting before he created a PAC to gauge support for a White House run. It was supposed to be a customary courtesy call to Romney as the 2012 nominee, who had repeatedly said he would not run a third time.
Thank you so much.
Then Romney changed his mind and made his "I'm back" reappearance at the RNC meeting in San Diego last week. He's been calling donors, ex-staffers, and supporters for 3 weeks now, and many say Romney seems determined to try again. Bush endorsed Romney in 2012, and the two are cordial political acquaintances.
It is a joy to be here in support of the next President of the United States, Mitt Romney.
Both are considered establishment frontrunners. Their competition for the same donors and votes could be intense. Bush's support for comprehensive immigration reform and Common Core education standards, and Romney's opposition to both, is a sure flashpoint. They absolutely agree on one thing: Hillary Clinton and the Democrats must be defeated. As Clinton's team comes together, including some Obama staffers, expectations are rising. Following an expected announcement in March or April, insiders are buzzing that the avalanche of prearranged donations will obliterate fundraising records and make it clear, if it isn't already, that Clinton will be the Democrats' nominee and a tough general election candidate. But Vice President Joe Biden has dismissed the existence of a big Clinton advantage and once again indicated that he is still mulling what would be his third White House run.
I don't think you have to make up your mind until the summer. I think this is wide open on both sides.
Is there any chance you can challenge her?
Yes, there's a chance. But I haven't made my mind up about that. We got a lot of work to do between now and then. There's plenty of time.
Biden insiders think Clinton's vulnerable, but he's not organizing or locking up big donors the way Clinton is, and he barely registers in the few polls that include him.
This Saturday, 8 Republicans, including Chris Christie and Scott Walker, will take part in the first big candidate forum in Iowa. Bush and Romney aren't going to be there, but their most conservative rivals plan to go after them anyway. Then Sunday night in California, the Koch brothers organization, Freedom Partners, will hold a moderated discussion between Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Rand Paul. That is sure to spark all kinds of new Tea Party fireworks. Brett.
Carl, thank you. Our possible contenders series continues with Governor John Kasich from Ohio in just a bit. Up next, why is President Obama pushing a plan that would hurt college students financially? This is a plan you probably have not heard about yet. First, what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 23 in Albany with criminal charges against New York State Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver. The Democrat was arrested today for allegedly taking millions of dollars in bribes and kickbacks. Fox 25 in Boston, where Mayor Marty Walsh is denying a report that he's trying to keep city employees from making negative comments about the Olympics. The U.S. Olympic Committee chose Boston to be the U.S. city in bidding for the 2024 Summer Games. A spokeswoman for the Boston mayor says he will not try to limit the free speech of the employees and that an agreement to muzzle workers is, quote, standard boilerplate language that all applicants sign. The bid may now go to a referendum in Boston. And this is a live look at Honolulu from our Fox affiliate out there, KHON. A big story in the Aloha State tonight. More on that bizarre case of pro golfer Robert Allenby. The Star Advertiser newspaper out there reports a homeless man claims Allenby told him he was drugged at a strip club while, quote, looking for some action. The man says Allen's facial injuries occurred when he passed out and hit a rock. Allenby has said he was kidnapped, beaten, and robbed. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.